Always great catching up with my next guest, Cory Sandhagen, who's got another big fight, this time Umar Nurmagomedov in the Middle East, August 3rd. We got plenty of time. Cory, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good, James. How are you?
I am doing great. So I think a lot of people sort of figured this fight was going to get put together. But I remember the last time you and I spoke, you were like, I don't know about the Middle East. And I kind of, obviously I don't blame you because, you're the higher ranked fighter. So how did this get put together? Because I know that wouldn't have been your first choice is fighting over there in the Middle East.
It was my first choice, but actually, the more that I thought about it, the more I started to realize I was like, well, they did book it for Nashville, which is definitely more, I think, of a demographic that I think would have been rooting for me.
Mhm.
So I was like, if Umar's willing to have done that, then I guess I can go to the Middle East. Also, they paid me more, so that helps too. So there's that. And then also just, I don't know, man. I really like the Middle East. Every time I've been out there, I loved it. The people are really kind. The hotels are sweet. And yeah, this time I'm going to go a little bit early to do the whole time change thing. So I'll kind of get to check out Dubai a little bit, and I guess that'll be fun. So yeah, I'm just not gonna complain, man. I don't know. I'm a guy that doesn't have many opinions about too many things. So I'll just, if they want me to fight there, then I'll fight there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And glad to hear they compensated you. I think, when you're doing the UFC a solid like that, I think it makes sense. Let me ask you this as well. I know last time we spoke about the it being 5 rounds. I would assume that was something as well. I mean, obviously it's a main event, so it would have been 5 rounds, but I'm sure that's something you wanted in this fight just, because I think most people would agree that favors you.
Definitely. I remember my first five round fight. There's just a lot of unknowns in a already situation where there's already a ton of unknowns. So yeah, I like the 5 rounds, of course. I think I personally feel like I fight a lot better over 5 rounds than three. And so yeah, definitely really happy about the 5 rounds. I feel like I'm kind of a 5 round fighter at this point, and I know how to do them really well. And so yeah, happy about the 5 rounds too.
Was there any talk about the winner of this getting a title shot? I know they haven't officially booked. I mean, it seems like they're going to do Merab and O'Malley next. Was that a discussion when you booked this fight?
Yeah, I believe Dana said that. I mean, yeah, they told me pretty much like, hey, I don't know how you're not next
Mhm.
if you won, but I think Dana, when he made the announcement video for the card in Abu Dhabi, he said number one contender fight, Cory versus Umar. So I mean, even on that video that Dana said, he said it was a number one contender fight.
I know you don't pay attention to this stuff, but I do have to bring it up. Did you see that you're like a plus 200 underdog in this fight? Does that surprise you? Did you know that?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, that's okay. Like Islam's doing well. That definitely has a lot to do with it. Uh, just like them being intertwined. I think that it's still like the big Dagestani narrative is still going on, and they are incredible fighters too. It's like there's like definitely a lot of truth to the narrative, but making them sound unbeatable is definitely not a true part of the narrative. So there's just that going on. I don't weigh that too much. Usually I think I'm the favorite, but I'm okay with being a dog every once in a while too.
Well, I just think being plus 200 just seems a bit odd. I could understand if you were like a plus 150 or 105 or whatever, like, saying it's a close fight, but 2-1 almost looks like, okay, this guy really should win. That's kind of why I brought it up because I think that was a bit surprising.
Oh yeah, I guess I don't know enough about odds to know that they were that in favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't
I don't
not
care much about that stuff.
going
Okay.
on. Yep. So.
On that same note, I think this is the best way I can put it. He's got some passionate fans. Let's put it that way. Have you been dealing with any of that on social media? I know you're not a big social media guy, but has there been, you're going to get destroyed or any of that type of stuff? Like there's some fan bases that are just very passionate about their fighters. Have you been experiencing any of that?
Nope. I don't read comments. I don't. I hardly actually even use Instagram hardly anymore. I kind of just use it to check my messages. I feel that I'm a lot healthier of like a person when I do it
Big
that
time.
way. Yeah, so I honestly I don't really use social media that much other than just making my posts, checking my messages every once in a while, and then yeah, that's pretty much all that I use it for. Everything else kind of feels just distracting because you do get people that tell you that you're gonna get killed, and then you got to think about that for like 5 or 10 seconds,
Yeah.
and then
And that's 5 or 10 seconds you could be using brain power on positive things, right?
exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any DMs at all? Because I know you said you check your messages. Has there been any in that request folder that you see every now and then, or no?
No, I usually don't check that one. I usually just reply. I don't know, man. I feel like I use Instagram just to like send funny shit to my friends and then have my friends send me funny shit
Yeah.
and then occasionally see who's fighting who. But I'm just super uninterested in the drama aspect of this sport, and I know that a lot of people like it, but I really love MMA because I think it's just a beautiful, awesome sport that like highlights the, like the physical piece of the human, but also I think like the spiritual and mental piece of the human, unlike a lot of other sports that occur. So I would feel kind of like I was smearing some grease on it if I got too involved with the drama stuff where this thing is like a beautiful art to me, and I'd try to just, I know that that's not like the real world, but for me, that's I can kind of make the world that I want to live in at least a little bit, and with MMA, that's the way that I try to keep it.
No, it's super, and I think that's just a rule in life. You can't. I mean, a lot of this stuff online isn't real, right? It's more of like an enhanced version of other people. But that's a podcast for another day, Cory. Maybe we'll dive that topic someday. So one of the things you mentioned there, and I agree with you, is that obviously as far as Umar, there's a lot of expectations. I hear people saying future champion and all that, and they do compare him to Khabib and Islam. But if you look at how he fights, he doesn't exactly fight the same way. How are you dissecting him as an opponent as far as the style matchup? Because I don't think he is a lot like Islam. I think he's got his own sort of style.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he has a mover style for sure. Islam doesn't have much of a mover style, although he does move really well. Umar is definitely different in the attacks that he throws, or the attacks that he's confident in throwing are much different than the other guys that I've seen from Dagestan. He's definitely a mover style of fighter, which is very different than I think Khabib and Islam, or at least like on the spectrum of it. He's way more far on the one side of mover. He definitely grapples really good, makes a lot of really safe decisions, like a lot of those guys out there do. And yeah, so a guy like Umar, man, you really just have to approach with not normal tactics. I feel like they're fundamental tactics, but like if you watch his other fights, you can't just go out and be like, yeah, I'll just fight him. Because it doesn't work. It's going to take specific attacks. It's going to take a specific style of movement, specific grappling techniques that are going to work well against him. And uh, yeah, that's been like fun and challenging to try to figure all of that stuff out in this time. Still got 8 weeks to like really hammer it home, but I'm definitely pressing in the right direction. I feel like I have a really good blueprint on how to do it, especially coming from the last camp where I had a ton of notes and a lot of things that were working really well before that I kind of get to like exponentially capitalize on a little bit more just with all the time. So I feel real good about that. I got the blueprint down. I just got to spend the next 8 weeks working my ass off, making sure that my mind, my body, my spirit, and everything is all moving in the same direction. And yeah, just make sure that I'm technically crisp. And then, yeah, I believe that I'll go home with the win, no doubt.
Does it add more value the fact that he's undefeated? You fought, I'm sure undefeated guys before. Does that matter to you? Is that something you're even thinking of?
It hasn't crossed my mind too much. Honestly, man, like, I feel like being undefeated is more of a compliment for the coaches that you had growing up. They just took right fights at the right times. Like if you throw 0-0 Umar against, anyone in the UFC, he maybe doesn't get to keep that up. Same with me. If you throw my first professional debut fight in against someone that's, a really high caliber fighter, then I'm probably going to lose just because experience is a big thing. And, that's a giant piece in becoming a professional. So the undefeated thing is always kind of it's cool that he's undefeated, and I'm very happy to take the O away from him and be that guy. But I think it's more of a compliment to his coaching staff and his team that they took the right fights at the right times. And that's like a really tough thing to do as a coach. So good on them.
You reference experience. I think people looking at this sort of optically would argue that, you're obviously the best opponent he's fought, but just that jump of going from, he fought Barcelos. His last opponent was very tough, but also a newcomer. Do you value experience in this fight? Like some of the names that you fought, who you've been in there with, are some of the best in the division. He hasn't been in there. Will that be a factor in the fight at all, do you think?
Yeah, certainly. I think that I've definitely learned a lot more lessons in this sport than probably he has, just having fought way better competition. Because when you fight better competition, you just you got to rise up a little bit more. That being said, that's not my only advantage in this one. I believe that I have a lot of technical skills that are a lot better than he is too, and I think that that's something. It's like easy to write off as Umar's this young, talented guy that has good kickboxing and good grappling and all of this. And Cory's the experienced veteran, but Cory is also the experienced veteran with really good kickboxing and really good grappling as well. So, yeah, experience will be like one little advantage that I get. But I think that when it comes to fighting, what really, really matters is your ability to go out there and show and do all of the technical pieces, like each individual one over and over again, that leads to a win. And I think that I do that better than Umar too.
We referenced this being a 5-round fight. I know he had a 3-round fight in his last one. He looked a little bit out of breath. There was some talk that maybe he was dealing with something coming in. Is that something you kind of took note of, just with the fact that maybe the longer the fight goes, you would have that advantage, just because it seemed like he was very tired after 3 rounds?
Yeah, it's something to note. Yeah, it's definitely something to note. He was breathing real hard. I don't know if I saw that in too many of his other fights afterwards, so maybe he did have something going on. As like a really good competitor, you can't really put any amount.
Can't rely on it, right? You got to imagine he can go the 5, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, definitely. I have to be ready for a Umar that can fight a 5th round the same way that he can fight a 1st round. But that being said, that, like I was saying before, that kind of just raises the bar for me. It makes me know that it's going to be technical skill, mental performance, and like the nice piece about fighting is your heart is involved in it too. And like I said, I think that I can do all of those things better than Umar as well.
As far as training partners, I know you have a great gym over there at Elevation Fight Team. I know you also have been working with Trevor Wittman. That's been a bit of a change. How has that been, getting to link up with one of the smartest minds in the sport?
Yeah, it's great. Trevor's great, man. Like he's a really fun guy to hang out with. He's really funny. He's definitely very smart when it comes to fighting. When you have to deal with an athlete that is pretty experienced and is pretty well versed in the art that I'm assigning responsibility to him to help me navigate, you definitely have to do it a lot differently. And I will say that Trevor has been incredibly thoughtful in the way that he's approached dealing with me specifically. And I think that it's awesome. I think that a lot of the workouts that we're doing are like technically really awesome, but they're also making me like a stronger, like better puncher and kicker, which is a really cool feeling that I haven't felt before. So yeah, working with Trevor is awesome. I also work with a couple other guys. Carrington Banks is my head coach in MMA. He's like he was a JUCO wrestler at whatever school it is that all of the guys that don't have the grades to go to like D1 schools go to. I one is John Jones and all of those guys. But Carrington Banks is a really phenomenal wrestling coach who I've been getting beat up by. Another guy who's been in the gym helping me a ton, who's a really close Umar look, is a guy named Taiwan Claxton.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yep, Taiwan is absolute animal. Bigger than me. Does a lot of similar things as Umar, so that'll be good. I have Ton Lee helping me, of course. Awesome. He's going to come in a couple of weeks. I was with him last week in Virginia. Ryan Hall, of course, who's helping me with a lot of the grappling stuff, like always, who's, again, another genius in the sport who just is really awesome to have in this fight in particular because, like I said, you can't just approach their grappling and their striking in normal ways. It has to be like fairly unique, or at least dynamic, if unique isn't the right word, dynamic. And I have all of those things. So yeah, I'm pumped for it, man. I think that I'm going to do awesome. I know that I sound a little bit tired right now, and that's because I am, but we're 4 weeks into, getting my ass whooped over and over and over again. So I got another 7 weeks of this, and then fight week, and then I'm coming back home the winner, going into a world championship fight after this one, and I'm pumped for that.
You don't sound tired at all, by the way. If you would have not told me that, I would have not known the difference, because you're just a very chill guy as it is. So you fooled me there. Just 2 more things about training. Are you working with any Dagestanis, or is it just, your usual guys? Like, I just wonder, like we sort of talked about the style there and who he's trained by and everything. Do you work with any of those guys or no?
It's hard because they're all homies.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
They're all buds. So when I reach out to friends and I'm like, hey, can that guy come out and train? Is he a good training partner? It's like, yeah, but they're friends with Umar, or they're friends with so-and-so that knows Umar. And so they're kind of buds. So it's really hard to get those types of looks. But I did have I'll probably have Muhammad Naimov hopefully come
Yeah,
out.
he was the one I was thinking of, actually. I know he does train with you a lot, so.
Yeah, and he's Tajikistan, which is different than Dagestan.
Right,
So
Caucasus region, though, right? If I'm not mistaken, or no? I don't know. I don't know my geography, so.
yeah, so I think a lot of the stands are right next to each other,
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, talked to Muhammad a little bit, try to get him out. We also had some guys from. It's really nice in the gym. We have guys pop in all the time. So we had some guys from Tajikistan pop in, Azerbaijan hop in, and so yeah, I get the look. It's a unique look, but it's not like it's a different style, but it's not fundamentally super different. They just have different attacks and things that they do a little bit different than the American style wrestling.
And then just last thing, you mentioned, guys, obviously there's a loyalty there. What about Usman and Gaethje? I know Gaethje's probably out because of his last fight, and Usman, I think he's doing more podcasting stuff, I think, these days than maybe being in the gym. But they obviously have the same managers as Umar. Has there been any like of them saying, "Hey, I can't help you"? Is there any allegiance there? Or are they more allegiance to you because you're on the same team?
Oh, no, I think that they would help me probably over him. But nah, Usman hasn't been in a little bit, and then Gaethje's he's probably a little bit too big for me to train with, like
Right. Yeah.
training with, because that sucker gets pretty like his neck goes all the way away when he's outside of training camp. Uh, so yeah, so not those guys too much, but maybe they'll be able to connect me with some training partners or something like that. But no, I feel real good about the guy. I mean, the guys that I'm working with right now are whooping my ass plenty. So until I can start to capitalize on getting that down, I think I'll stick with that until I start branching off, which is maybe like 1 or 2 more weeks of getting it down.
When are you arriving? Because you mentioned you're going to get there a bit early. Like, do you know have you got your itinerary yet and all that?
Yeah, it's real nice because I think we fight at around 2 a.m. their time, which is around 4 p.m. our time. So,
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah, I go to bed really early anyways. I usually go to bed around 9:30, 10.
You and
So,
me both. Now I don't feel as bad. I can tell people Cory Sandhagen goes to bed at the same time as me, although I have 2 kids, but still, that's awesome.
uh, yeah, so I go to bed really early. So that's like, it makes the time change a lot easier actually, because it would like 4 a.m., which is when I'm probably going to try to shoot to fall asleep at. 4 a.m. over there is around 7 p.m. our time. So I kind of only need to shift it back like 2 or 3 hours, which will be very easy. But I'm going to go about 9 or 10 days early.
Nice.
And, yep, get that. And then, yeah, I'm going to spend a couple days afterwards. Me and my wife are going to go check out Dubai and
There we go.
actually get to experience it a little bit. So I guess that'll be fun, depending on whether or not I win or lose. So, but yeah, that's kind of the plan. So I'll be out there for a good solid 2 weeks.
Trevor Wittman, I imagine, in your corner, and Ryan Hall. Anyone else?
Yep, Carrington Banks.
Oh, yeah, Carrington. Yeah.
Probably the. I mean, he's my head coach. He's kind of an up and coming coach, but he does a lot for the team. I don't know, the team name changed recently, or maybe not changed, but there's a new team that operates out of the same gym. The other one went somewhere.
What's it called now?
It's called Forge Fight Club.
Forge Fight Club. Okay, I got to remember that.
Yep. So yeah. So Banks is one of the main coaches on there. So yeah, he's like a really really integral part of my success. He's also like a super outstanding coach. Does a lot for the team. Does a lot for me. And yeah, Trevor Wittman and Ryan Hall are definitely the more famous names, but Carrington Banks is another one that I think in the next couple of years could definitely shoot for Coach of the Year and all of that.
Well, I interviewed him when he was fighting for Bellator back in the day, and all I ever heard was, aside from him being a good coach, is that apparently he's very, very, very good at Mario Kart on the N64. Did you hear about this?
No, he's really good at those simple games, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
The more the game gets, the less good Banks gets at the games.
And just one more thing, you mentioned the gym change name. So is that like the same team like you and Curtis and Austin Hubbard and Magny and those guys? Is that the same gym or is that a different gym?
It's like a lot of the same guys. It was
Okay.
it was a little bit of a depart. Like a couple of the coaches left and went and took elevation somewhere else, and then the guys that kind of stayed are called Forge Fight Club now. And yeah, Curtis I think is still a part of it, or I don't think Curtis is a part of it. I'm a part of it. And yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, just getting clarification there. Yeah, because I always find this stuff interesting. How's this one playing out on August 3rd? How do you see it going down?
Man, I think as long as I work my ass off, I could definitely get a finish in this one. I definitely don't want to go in and like I want this fight to be one that like drops people's jaws. Like I want people to be like, wow, Cory is that good. Like, man, I didn't know Cory could grapple like that. I didn't know that he could fundamentally break someone down in striking the way that he did. I mean, people have seen that from me, but they haven't seen, I don't think, like my high level grappling. So I'm really excited to show that. I also think too, with the additions that I've made since the elbow's been hurt, are going to play a big factor in this. I definitely added some heat onto a lot of the things that I'm doing. My body is moving really good. I'm super pumped to be back fighting. Like sitting on the bench for the last year has really, really sucked. So I'm really excited to get back. And like I said, man, my mind is in a place where I want to go out. And even though it's a number one contender fight, and Dana said it, I still want to go out and I want to make sure that I'm putting on an unbelievable performance against someone that has a lot of hype behind him right now. And I know that I can do that. So I'm going to try to do it the best that I can and try to take him out within the 5 rounds.
You mentioned getting compensated well for this fight. Is this part of a new contract or same contract, just a bump in pay?
Same contract, just a bump in pay.
That's good. Okay.
Which was super awesome of them too. Like I was like, hey guys, like I feel like I shouldn't have to go to the Middle East to fight down, like super far down in the rankings like that. And they're like, hey, we get it. Here's a little bit extra. That'll cover more of the flight and more of all of that stuff because it is a lot more expensive to go out there earlier.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And camps are already expensive as hell as they are. Like once you add in all of the recovery stuff and then flying people in and having them have a spot to stay and all of that stuff and just paying the people that are outside of the percentages, this like it can be a lot of money to spend on a camp. So, which is another reason why I really want Umar to make it to the fight. And I think that if it's in the Middle East, he definitely will. So
yeah.
So maybe he was trying to duck Nashville.
We'll see. So the UFC's been doing this series behind the scenes and they're like showing everything, like fighters talking to like Hunter Campbell and all that. Did you see the clip of Aljamain Sterling and Hunter Campbell?
Yeah, I saw that clip.
What did you make of it? Because I mean, I think a lot of people, I think they kind of feel like UFC didn't really treat him very well. If he's talking about injuries and all this stuff, like what was sort of your takeaway? Because I'm sure you've dealt with it too, where it's like, you know, you're in those talks and it's, you know, it's very different than what people think is happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's really hard because I don't know both sides of the story. I suppose I do know that. Like, here's the thing, man. Is like this sport is a sport, but it's also not the NFL or the NHL or MLB. Like, this thing has a massive emphasis on entertainment, and it has a massive emphasis on just the way that it's run is completely different than all of the other sports. So it's real hard because I think that the UFC is honestly in a really tough way that the way that they have to navigate things probably makes them seem like they're the bad guys often, but they got to run their business, man. They have like a show. They have shows like 3 weekends out of the month. It feels like, so
yeah,
they got to do what they got to do. I don't know both sides of the story. I think it's a shame that, you know, maybe Aljamain had to take a fight quicker than he would have liked to. But, you know, if you go out and you win that fight, you're big time in the UFC's good graces for doing them a solid and you get a win. So if things could have gone differently, then, you know, I think that he definitely wouldn't have minded being raced to the next fight. But because they went the way that they did, obviously he's not happy about it.
Why do you think Merab and O'Malley is not booked yet? And is that concerning at all for you as someone who, you know, again, number one contender fight? Like if this thing's slugging along, it might be a while before the winner of your fight fights them.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know, honestly. There's a lot of things that I could speculate about. Maybe someone's hurt. Maybe there's this. Maybe there's that. Yeah, I don't really know. I thought that it was booked for the Spear, no?
It's not official yet. No, nothing's like they don't even have a main event for that yet. I think there's rumblings, but that's not booked yet. So.
Oh, yeah. I have, I guess, heard Dana say a bunch of times that he wants to put Mexican fighters on there as it's Mexican Independence Day.
Well, apparently it's not now. Apparently the day that it's on, it's not. They're not celebrating that anymore. Apparently that's the rumor out there. So.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I don't know what's going on, but
yeah.
anyways. And I think I asked you that fight before, but you think Merab might do it, or do you think O'Malley, because of his power? We've seen Merab get hit. Do you think he can take him out, or do you think Merab has the edge there?
I think O'Malley's kind of got the better odds. I think that, I mean, the guy knocks people out. He's definitely got a ton of power. And whether or not Merab takes him down a ton of times or not, he still gets to start standing and have that really smooth movement that he gets to have that isn't easy to close in on. Like you don't get to just like run over and take that guy down. Like you have to do a lot of work in closing that gap. That's not going to be easy. And it honestly, it could take like an entire round to even just do that. So, I mean, I think that O'Malley has a lot more advantages, and I think that he'll beat Merab.
What did you think of Islam's win over Dustin Poirier a couple weeks ago? That was pretty impressive.
Oh man, it was such an awesome fight. Jeez. Yeah, I remember watching that fight being like, wow, this is maybe definitely one of the best fights I've seen in some time. Just Poirier's like hard. Poirier fought real good. It wasn't like a major one-sided fight. I think that Islam was in control most of the time. Like I definitely don't think Poirier won, but it was competitive and it was awesome. Islam got to highlight a lot of his skills that we didn't really know that he had, which was super cool. And yeah, Islam can strike, man. Like the guy can wrestle and he can strike. And look at Poirier. Poirier can wrestle a lot better than when he fought Khabib too. So it was a high. I think both of their stock went way up after that one.
Any good book recommendations? Anything you're reading right now? I know again you talked about staying off social media, which is a good thing, and I know that's usually replaced with books. So what are you reading right now?
Yeah, right now. So I'm reading two things. I'm finishing up a book called The Undiscovered Self by Carl Jung, which I would highly, highly recommend. It's really cool. It's kind of just about kind of how like modern day sciencey world can make you feel like you're a statistic, and pretty much the book is about how to flourish in being an individual and not kind of being a sheep is pretty much I guess like the modern way to say it. I'm reading that, and then Ryan Hall gave me a book called Flow, which was written in the '90s, which I'm really, really enjoying. It's a pretty thick book, so it's going to be hard for me to finish, but it's also really, really good. I really enjoy books that kind of put historical things into perspective. Like, hey, 100 years ago it was this shitty, and now 100 years later we all still kind of feel shitty, but look how much less shitty it is. What does that say about human psychology? And so that's kind of what Flow is about, or at least in the parts that I've read so far. So yeah, so reading those two books. So I guess two psychology books right now.
Excellent. Corey, thanks for doing this. And we went way over time, but always a good chat with you. If there's anything you want to mention before we get out of here, sponsors, social media, your YouTube channel, I do watch that as well. You're doing a great job with it. Anything you want to mention, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, no, that's it. I guess I'm trying to have some fun on YouTube. So if you guys are interested, I'm doing fight vlogs every week, which are kind of fun. I know that we're still getting good at them. We're still getting good at them. I'm not the best on doing those yet, but there's a little bit of a learning curve. So if you guys want to just support, just subscribe on YouTube, I guess, and yeah, just trying to get into marketing myself a little bit more. So that's what I've been focusing on. So if you guys want to support me in that embarrassing task, please subscribe and like and comment.